In the early days of the 1970s, America found itself on the cusp of a crisis that would reshape its social fabric for decades to come. While the headlines focused on Vietnam and civil rights, beneath the surface, a new epidemic was quietly brewing, one fueled not by politics or ideology, but by a powerful white powder: cocaine. The man at the heart of this unfolding crisis was George Jung, better known as Boston George. Born in 1942 in Boston, Massachusetts, Jung's early life was unremarkable. A middle-class upbringing and a penchant for adventure set the stage for what would become an extraordinary and dark chapter in American criminal history. But it wasn't until the late 1960s and early 1970s that George's story took a sharp turn. Through a combination of ambition, street smarts, and connections that would soon stretch from the shores of Colombia to the streets of the United States, he carved out an empire trafficking cocaine on a scale previously unseen. This is the untold story of George Jung, the man who helped ignite the cocaine epidemic that ravaged America in the 1970s and beyond. To understand how deeply intertwined George's story is with the rise of cocaine in the U.S., it's important to grasp the context in which he operated. The 1970s were a time of shifting power dynamics in the world of narcotics. Marijuana had already established a foothold, but cocaine was seen as an exotic luxury drug, expensive and rare. Its use was mostly confined to the elite circles. What changed everything was the formation of powerful trafficking networks, chief among them the Medellín Cartel in Colombia. George Jung had the fortune, or perhaps the misfortune, of becoming one of the principal U.S. distributors for the Medellín Cartel. This relationship transformed him from a small-time drug dealer into a kingpin managing shipments worth millions of dollars monthly. His infamous ties to Pablo Escobar and other cartel leaders meant that the cocaine flooding American streets was often traced back through his hands. But the rise of George Jung's empire was not without warning signs. As his operation expanded, so too did the behavioral cues that signaled impending trouble. Increasing secrecy, reliance on violence, and betrayal within his ranks became daily hazards. George's lifestyle, jet-setting between the U.S. and Colombia, rubbing shoulders with cartel elites, and flaunting wealth, belied a growing darkness. His dealers and associates operated in paranoia, knowing that law enforcement and rival factions were closing in. Trust became a rare commodity, and paranoia set the stage for the eventual unraveling of his network. Despite the outward glamour, drug trafficking was a high-stakes game where betrayal and violence were commonplace. Deals gone wrong, informants within his circle, and intensified DEA activity chipped away at George's empire. When examining George Jung's story, many try to explain his actions as isolated incidents or the result of personal failings. Yet, the evidence reveals a much broader picture, one of systemic issues in the drug trade's escalation, the allure of quick wealth during economic hardship, and the unregulated narcotics demand raging beneath the surface of American society. This was not just a story of one man chasing fortune. It was the early chapter in the transformation of cocaine from a luxury imported in small quantities to a mass-market drug with devastating societal impact. Attempts to reduce George's impact to mere criminality ignore the larger socioeconomic forces and failures of drug policy that allowed this epidemic to flourish. Consider the countless law enforcement reports, testimonies, and archived materials documenting George's operations. From major busts in the 1970s and 80s to wiretap recordings, these pieces chronicle a vast trafficking network designed to evade capture and expand influence. These detailed accounts show how the cocaine pipeline he helped establish permanently altered drug markets and addiction patterns in the U.S. Case studies of individuals and communities devastated by the influx of cocaine paint a glowing but grim backdrop against which George Jung's story played out. His personal rise and fall is inseparable from the broader societal consequences, the violence, addiction, and fractured families that persist to this day. Historically, the importance of George Jung's story cannot be overstated. His ties to the Medellín Cartel coincide with the rise of large-scale drug importation operations that corrupted governments, fueled cartel violence, and contributed to the U.S. becoming the world's largest consumer of illicit cocaine. Behind the scenes, There were also conspiracy theories and whispered rumors. Allegations of cooperation between drug traffickers and corrupt government officials, shadowy deals, and exploitation of political instability in South America. Whether fully true or exaggerated, these narratives underscore the complexity in Secker.